Right, so we're in December in the UK. It is considerably milder than usual. I say considerably, you never know when it's bring nowadays, but we are sort of double figures during the day and still quite mild at night, between 5 and 10 degrees. So it's, I'll certainly take that for this time of year. So we've got this corner in the garden here, which is sort of where the shed disappears to the back of the boundary of the garden as such, and we've got a nice little microclimate in this corner. So we're going to look at a couple of evergreen plants that maybe don't get the attention they deserve, but we'll have a look at some other. I mean, what you'll see here is all evergreens now, because there are a few gaps where I have potted more tropical plants during the summer, but in the winter this is sort of the bare bones, but it's still looking quite full and lush. So we'll have a look at more common plants, then we'll look at the sort of two main plants which I think deserve a bit more attention they actually get. Right, so this is a fairly sunny spot in the winter. In the summer it's fairly shady, just due to the bigger palms, the Trachycarpus fortunei and the Phoenix canariensis. But yeah, so it's sort of a microclimate because it is sheltered by by these big plants from the wind, and it's certainly sheltered from the northerly winds this way with the trees and the shed itself. Yeah, so that's sort of an idea of what sort of climate it is. So I mean, that doesn't very often get frosted in this corner. It's not to say the plants here are not hardy, but they just do really well. And look at that, December, and we've got a bee buzzing about, still loving the flowers. Right, so more sort of commonly used with for good reason, because they're a fantastic plant. You've got the Fatsias. This video is not about Fatsias, but this is sort of will tie in, slightly related as such. So we've got the Fatsia variegata there, one of my favourites. It tends to be quite fast growing for a variegated plant, albeit not a huge amount of variegation on it, but still very nice. We've got a couple of the Fatsia camouflage, and there's two different types here, and I'm sure they're called different names, but I'll call them both camouflage. But this one we can see is almost like a two-tone leaf, as it were. So you've got two shades of green, like right dark and then the lighter shade, and then with the really light veins, which I really like that one. This one not so keen on. So this is like the three-tone leaf. So we've got the darker, the mid-green and the really light green, which is still very nice, but I think I prefer the other one. Yes, we've got a cheese plant, or Monstera deliciosa. We'll see if that survives the winter. So what else we've got? We've got the Chamaedorea radicalis, which is the hardy parlour palm, common name. This is a little cluster, always does really well. And lots of other evergreens. This is the Brassiops fatsoides. May stay evergreen, may drop its leaves, very small at the moment. But let's get into the underutilised plants. So we said that's going to tie into Fatsia, so we're looking at the Fatshedera, which is the cross between ivy and the Fatsia. So it's got a very similar leaf shape to a Fatsia, but not quite as big. This is, you can get a plain green version or a variegated version. This is the variegated version, which has a couple of stems which have reverted back to plain green. I could cut them out and take cuttings and just have a plain green form, or just cut them out and just leave the variegated, but I'm really not that fussy. It's quite nice to have a combination of the variegated, as it were, or camouflage. I mean, they do vary a lot in the leaf sizes. These ones are quite small, whereas I think as they get a little bit bigger or taller, they do tend to get bigger leaves. This so happens, obviously, as they revert back to green, they tend to be slightly bigger. But yeah, very nice plant. So a Fatsia would be like a standalone, almost shrub tree, 6 to 8 foot. Because this is crossed with ivy, it's going to be more of a climber, so it's a good option to have, either climbing up against, in this situation, a shed, or you could have it climbing alongside a bigger tree or something like that to fill it out. If you want some sort of if you've got a bare trunk, you could tie that into that, no problem. Yeah, so very nice, very underutilized, fairly easy to come by, not particularly expensive. Just a different option, slightly different look to a standard Fatsia. So this is kind of an update, but also just to remind people, because I do tend to do a video on this at least once a year, but I think people do forget that the cast iron plant, or Aspidistra, is pretty hardy, especially for most of the UK, if in the right position. So this is sort of pretty much in deep shade most of the time, and very exotic looking with the big leaves, dark glossy green leaves, very tropical looking in my eyes. And this is about 3 foot tall, it's probably about 4 foot across. Just as the name suggests, cast iron, very reliable, very hardy, I would say. We've seen -7s in occasion here on the east coast, and this has had no problem. Obviously it's got overhead canopy, so, and it is one of the better microclimates in the garden, so in the right position they do tend to want a drier or very free draining soil, but you can counteract that by planting it near a tree or something which is going to suck up a lot of moisture, like this one is actually here. So we've got, you won't see it, but if I pan upwards, we've got a big eucalyptus there, probably only about 4 years old, and it's probably about 25 foot tall. But yeah, so this is, even though we've got a shed with the gutter with the end cap off so it can just drip down into this corner to water it well, you'd think that would be a recipe disaster for something that likes dry conditions like the Aspidistra. But the point is, we've got a lot of trees, shrubs which are sucking up the moisture, so even as we speak, we can see water dripping from the gutter. This eucalyptus is going to suck most of that up, even in the winter. Yeah, so I've never had any issue with the cast iron plant, other than slight, insect damage, slug damage if you like. And my garden is very, very prone to slugs, but as we can see, most of the leaves look pretty good. And like I say, to have a plant evergreen with big leaves like that, I mean, these aren't dissimilar to lotus banana leaves in shape and size, and this is a big clump and dark green. Very, to have a foliage plant like that that's hardy, I think you're missing a trick if you haven't got one of these. Again, they want to be in shade, free draining, but they'll take the cold, and they are, you know, fantastic plants. When I first started getting into the exotic tropical style gardening, I had this in a pot. I used to just bring it into the shed over winter. One year I forgot about it and left it out in a pot, and that just looked fantastic at the end of the winter, so I thought, well, let's put it in the ground. And yeah, so over the last 3 or 4 years, it's gone from sort of one little plant, like I say, to a 4 foot wide, well over around about 3 foot tall clump. Almost, I won't say wasted here, because I know it's here and I can see it, but yeah, obviously with all the other plants going on, it'd be easy to overlook. So I may well, in the spring, divide half of that clump out and put it somewhere else to spread it about, because I do find that even though they are fairly slow growing, that they, you know, they do settle in and they do spread in a year or two. And just I know a few people do grow them, but just a reminder that give it a go. You can buy these, the plain green form is going to be the hardiest. They can be fairly expensive. I mean, you can get them for around 15-20 quid for a decent pot, but for all, you know, year-round interest in a shadier spot, ideal. I may well look into getting some more of the more interesting ones, like the variegated or the spotted ones as well, to trial them. Obviously, if you are growing any of the variations, the variegated types, let me know if you've got them outside and how they've done. Like I say, the plain green is going to be the hardest. It always is with plants. Any sort of variegation can sort of reduce the hardiness level slightly, but yeah, let me know if you have trialed and had success. Yeah, so just a quick video really. Don't overlook these plants. They're not rare plants. You can find them. So we're, you know, you got 2 options here for evergreens. You've got the cast iron plant or Aspidistra, very good clump form and evergreen, very exotic looking, and we've got the Fatshedera, which is a good option for a climber, evergreen climber, interesting foliage, does flower, and as we just see earlier, we've still got flies and bees even in December going around the flowers, so still good for the late pollinators. That's about it really. Let's leave it there. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.